Excellent. Well, by my clock, it's 7 o'clock, and I'm hoping that the council chambers are also at 7 o'clock. So we will go ahead and call the Tuesday, December 21st City Council meeting to order. We will start with our roll call.
Councilman Becker.
Here.
Councilman Hartwick. Here. Councilman Housley is excused absence. Councilman Johnson.
Here.
President Scher.
Here. That takes us to agenda item 3, public hearings. This evening, we have none. Agenda item 4, public comment. A reminder that the city council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon. That would be name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. Clerk Ebert, have we had any in-person signups?
Vicky Powell, 1127 Talcott Street. Vicky, okay. This sheet was a few pages back and it could have been from a prior meeting. However, I did not recall seeing this at a prior meeting. So I believe we have no public comments signed up for tonight.
All right, then this will be a first call for public comment via Zoom. This is a second call for public comment. And then this is a third and final call for public comment. Seeing none, we will move along to agenda item number 5, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda that is outlined is presented for action by the city council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president. Is there any discussion regarding our consent agenda this evening?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Agenda item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. This evening, we have none. Agenda item 7, resolutions and ordinances. 7A, the review and possible action relating to a resolution establishing the 2022 schedule of fees for the city of Fort Atkinson, Jefferson County.
Thank you. So attached to the memo in your packet is the proposed 2022 schedule of fees for the city of Fort Atkinson. The last fee resolution was adopted by the city council in 2016. The goal of this document is to establish a baseline for the fees included in it. And in the future, staff does intend to review these fees annually during the budget process to see if any of them need to be adjusted in the following year. So again, this year, it's just to reestablish this base because the last time it was adopted was 2016. And then we will look at a few of those in the future. There are some new fees since 2016. Those are outlined in the memo, including the private well permit, which we will discuss later today. When that ordinance is approved, that will be in effect. And then the vehicle registration fee, the operator license was an existing fee, but did increase for 2022. The engineering and land use fee categories were reorganized. Those will be looked at in 22 and potentially amended for the 2023 year. The special area design review and temporary use processes are new in the 2020 zoning code rewrite. So we will do an analysis and recommend establishing a fee for those land use applications for 2023. There's also public works operations fees and compost fees. Those are existing fees, but were reorganized and added to the document. There's a few fees that are included in the document that the city does not, the city council does not have control over, and those are the room tax, the alcohol licenses, classes A, B, and C, and the cigarette license. And then I also list some of the fees that we intend to review and or establish in the future, including the building permits, erosion control, conditional use permits, sign permits, plat and survey review. A lot of these are the land use applications that the processes have changed due to the 2020 rewrite of the zoning code. So they do require some staff work. So we would like to be able to recoup some of those costs. The staff does recommend that the city council adopts this resolution establishing the 2022 schedule of fees. And if approved, then staff will distribute to the applicable city departments, post on the city's website, and update forms and applications as necessary. I will just point out that I included page 29 of the city's 2022 adopted budget in the packet. And that outlines the total revenues from most of these fees. And I just want to highlight something because I did some math that I will share. The fees that are outlined in this resolution across the number of licenses or permits that we issue over the year in 2022 will give us about $112,000 in total general fund revenue. And for some perspective, that's about 1.2% of the overall revenue, general fund revenue for the city. So it's a small piece of the revenue puzzle, but it's also an opportunity for us to look at some of these fees in the future and make sure we are recouping as much of the costs as we can for the services that we provide. Be happy to answer any questions that the council has.
Rebecca, I think the only question I had, so knowing that we would be including this in the budget process going forward, I assume that would allow for any specific feedback or public input that any individuals who maybe will be impacted by a change or involved in a change, that they would have a chance to speak about that before a decision would be made about a change.
Yeah, I think we could introduce a draft along with, at some point along with a draft budget document and then get feedback and finalize the fee resolution in the future at the same time as the budget document, as some of the approval resolutions.
Otherwise, unless anybody's going to jump in with questions, I would move to approve the resolution establishing the 2022 schedule of fees for the city of Fort Atkinson.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Takes us to 7B, the second reading of an ordinance to repeal and recreate section 98-76 of the City of Fort Atkinson Municipal Code relating to private well abandonment and well operation permit ordinance.
Is your green light on, Tim? Is it red?
There it is. Now it's green.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Just here tonight to inform the council that since the previous meeting where the first reading of the ordinance occurred, the water department has not received any concerns or questions or anything from any of our residents or customers. And I just wanted to check to see if any of the council members had heard from any of their constituents about any questions or concerns, or if in the last 2 weeks, if any of the council members have come up with any questions.
Tim, the only thing I would ask regarding that, and I apologize if we went over this at the last meeting, but have the people who have the wells been specifically notified? Like, has there been direct contact made to those people who would potentially be impacted by any changes?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, those people have had these permits in the past,
Sure.
but they have not been directly reached out to about these changes.
Okay.
They will be, like, that's the intent. But,
Yeah.
Not yet.
I haven't heard anything else. I think this has been a well-discussed ordinance. I'll go ahead and make the motion to direct the city manager to prepare this ordinance for a third and final reading at the meeting on January 4th.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It takes us to 7C, the first reading of an ordinance to amend wintertime parking on Rockwell Avenue.
Hey, good evening. The current ordinance that we have for wintertime parking rules, obviously rules that go into effect with snow on the ground, on Rockwell Avenue has no parking between, I think it is December 1st through March 1st, but go with what's in your packet because I'm not.
March
remembering.
15th.
March 15th, thank you. It stops at Grove Street, so it doesn't cover that section where the Luther football or Luther soccer fields and softball fields are. And then there's a large apartment complex on the south side. When we rebuilt the road in 2017, I added curb to that area in the boulevard. And in hindsight, that was a problem for our plow drivers because now their plow can't hang over into the median or the boulevard area. It's too narrow with a car parked there. So we had promised everybody parking through that section in the summertime. Unfortunately, in the wintertime, it's too tight for us to get a plow through there. So there really isn't any parking that goes on there in the wintertime. There used to be one individual at the apartment complex that parked there consistently. He has since moved on from that location. So we'd like to extend this wintertime rule through that section. I did ask Chief Bump if we could just simply take care of this with the residents in the apartment complex without putting up a bunch of signs. I think we have way too many signs in the city, so I'd prefer not to sign it if we can. And he agreed that his officers would just simply talk to the management there and provide warnings as needed until everybody kind of picked up on that section of the road. Again, I don't see many cars parking there now as it is, so I don't expect there to be much. The Traffic Review Committee took this up to add this change to the ordinance, had no concerns about it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have regarding this.
Andy, I think the only question I had, and maybe this is more of a question for Chief Bump, but I was just curious in terms of warnings being shared. Do you know if those are also shared in Spanish and not just English?
Ooh,
I'm just thinking of, I know there's a higher population
Sure,
of
yeah.
Spanish speaking individuals and families in that community. And I just wouldn't want there to be, again, it sounds like there aren't many issues of people parking there anyhow, but it would just be good to know that if people are getting warnings that it's in a communication that's.
yeah. I can speak to the outstanding interpretive services of the department. I've used that a number of times, but Chief, I know you're on the line. Could you answer that question?
Yes, our warnings have English and Spanish translation on a single sheet, front and back. One is English, one is Spanish.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was my only question.
I think the change probably makes sense. And I mean, there's not really any events or sporting events to speak of.
Not in the
that
wintertime.
happen, during winter time, yeah. So I can't imagine this will be a big problem.
No, I don't see many vehicles parked there, if any, frankly.
I then would move to direct the city manager to prepare this ordinance for a second and possible third and final reading at the meeting on January 4th, 2022.
We will likely ask at the next meeting if we haven't had any feedback to approve it then, just simply because of the timing of the situation. So.
I did not hear. Did we have a second?
Yes, Bruce Johnson.
Thank you. All right, since we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Takes us to agenda item 8, the reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A, our city manager's report.
Thank you. As I'm sure everybody's aware, the tax bills were distributed about a week and a half ago. So staff is busy answering questions and accepting payments Please visit our website or social media page, or actually look at the tax bill for information on how to submit payments. Website is a great resource for that. Engineer Sally and I had a great meeting with Brett Wallace from the DOT last week relating to the city's connecting highway programs. We have substantially improved our working relationship with the DOT, which will assist us over the next several years for the various state projects that we have coming in the hopper, I should say. Dodge County will no longer be a member of Thrive ED starting mid-year 2022. The organization is now reevaluating their 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. And I volunteered to be on a subcommittee that will review and determine measures of success that matter to both the public and private sector investments in that investors in that organization. The refocused energy on Jefferson County will and has already, in fact, resulted in additional attention for Fort Atkinson. So I think that's a very positive thing. And I look forward to working with Thrive ED and the JCEDC in the new year on several different projects. Staff met with our consultants relating to the Banker Road Neighborhood Plan request for proposals. We'll be getting a document to review within the next month or so, and hope to release it to the development community later this winter. We continue to meet with our communications consultants relating to that possible public safety referendum. We plan to introduce a draft referendum question to the city council on January 4th. And then the item will likely come back to the council on January 18th for possible action. The city will have an ordinance committee meeting on January 11th, where we will review a few new ordinances, including an official map and a land division ordinance. The Plan Commission and the full council will review these items in late January through February. And I will be taking a little bit of time off over these next 2 weeks. And so I just want to wish everybody a happy happy and healthy holiday season. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Rebecca, your dealings with Thrive, will we be moving towards some sort of a report card with them? Because I think in the past, there's been a lack of ability to see what they did for us.
Yeah, and that's part of what we'll be looking at when we determine those measures of success. So, and we can also have them come and present some information to the council and talk about that strategic plan in a little bit more in depth as well.
Okay, I'd like that because I was a little concerned with the question of what did they do for us was met with more like shrug shoulders.
We will work on our communication.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 9, unfinished business. 9A, the review and possible action relating to the proposal from Ignitech to purchase and install a centralized router at the police department to serve city facilities with fiber for $10,578.20.
Thank you. Council, you may or may not remember, but this is probably a year and a half to almost 2 years in the making. The school district and the city had partnered together to install fiber throughout the city. It was a project the school district had started, and discovering their connection would go right by some of our city facilities. We thought this would be a great time to work together and see what we can provide as enhancements for our city. October 20, council approved the installation for Midwest Excavating, advanced forward to November 2020. We were able to extend it to the Public Works Operations Facility. So great plans for us going forward. So the next phase where we're at is getting closer to connecting the fiber to go live. What we are looking for tonight is approval of a quote for a router. You may be familiar with routers as you have one in your home. Charter being the provider, you have a router, provides internet to your house. What we'd be looking at is this router would be located at the police department, various levels with not only being a secure location, but also a centralized location within the city. It would be where the centralized hub would be connection for the fiber. From there, it would be branched out to the other facilities. So in this case, we would look as that facility serving as our own charter for the city fiber. Quoted in your packet is the router. Also provided a picture to see how large and how detailed this item is. It's way larger than the typical one you would see at your home for maybe 1 or 2 connections. funds using this, funds to purchase this would be used from the ARPA, the American Recovery Plan Act, which would correspond with the broadband infrastructure. That would improve our connection facilities and security around the city for all of our hardware and all of our network capabilities. Ignitech technician Bill Lippincott is available on Zoom. If we have any questions, he could discuss the router capabilities, security, or the necessity for this to continue the project. Engineer Selly has also been the head behind the construction part of this, and he can answer any questions as far as the project and where it is.
I'm just curious from the financing side. So obviously this project was started before the city knew that ARPA funds
Mhm.
would be available to potentially cover things like this. So was this an expense that we always knew was coming with the project and we're just going to have to figure out how to pay for, or was this an unexpected expense once the project started?
We knew there was going to be some expenses without knowing how many facilities would able to be connected to the fiber. It was unknowing the degree of the router we would need.
Okay.
When we first started this project, it was a partnership with the school district and routes to recovery funding that was provided through COVID relief that was able to kind of kick this off for us. And one of the main uses was infrastructure improvement for connectivity via the internet. So the stars kind of aligned with all of the funding that was brought forward to align for this actual project. But again, we knew there was going to be some extent, but unknown. And I think this opens the door for a lot of possibilities for us through not just city facilities, but hopefully in the future be something we could advance throughout the community.
I guess that ties into my next question, and maybe this is my technology ignorance showing, but is this something that would ever allow for public Wi-Fi in the city?
We do, there is a public Wi-Fi component to this. so-
Okay.
Andy, can you speak into your microphone, please?
So there are two components to this. The fiber is simply a conduit. The network that we're talking about here for the router is just for city facilities.
Okay.
There is a second component where we've approved a contract with WIN, Wisconsin Information Network, that is providing the city the internet essentially for our purposes. But they're also providing the internet to commercial entities that are along the route. The first one should be hooked up here in the next coming days. It will be IPEC out at the business park. And they have negotiated, well, they have set rates that we negotiated with WIN for commercial providers that are significantly discounted from what they would receive through a charter or an AT&T, because they're using our infrastructure and essentially being able to provide that service without having to do a tremendous build or investment in infrastructure. So that's the second component. The router that Clerk Everett was talking about is just simply serving the city's facilities, as WIN or WIN takes care of all of the router and various other components that I don't know about for the commercial side of things.
Okay. Thank you.
It seems to me, Andy, that the fire department would be utilizing this right away.
They will.
Is that part of, I saw one of the fire department employees show me an app on his phone where they're contacted by phone and they say, I'm on my way, and they can track them from the fire department as to how many volunteers are coming, where they're located, and how soon they might arrive. Is this going to generate that ability for them?
Yeah, my understanding is that fiber is the equivalent of us talking to each other through a tin can and a string versus using a cell phone today. So the increase in capability, speed, quality is exponential. So anything that is connected to the internet, including that particular app, would be served by that in a much faster capacity and more reliably, I guess, too.
Does this have like a redundant capability where it's
Does.
got a backup to itself?
Yeah, so DJ Scullin with the school district in partnership with us, he's kind of the brains behind a lot of the technical side of this. One of the reasons that we solicited WIN to provide the internet not only to the city's network but also the commercial network was because the school district has another provider. They have WiskNet, I believe, which is a competitor. So in the event that the WiskNet internet goes down, DJ has put in a fail safe so that we will essentially go over to the Win internet, both the school district and the city, if one of the two goes down. So we've got some redundancy that frankly isn't really built into a lot of other networks.
Excellent, absolutely excellent. DJ is a very smart man.
Yeah, all the kudos go to him on that one. That's not something I was looking for. So
Councilman Johnson, to expand on your question, the I'm Responding app that you're referencing our fire department has, they have had that for a few years. That works on their cell phone, whether they're at their home with internet or whether they have a smartphone with internet capabilities. So yes, this fiber would even be an even stronger, more secure, probably a faster response with communication.
Outstanding.
This might be a question for our Ignitech representative, but I was curious, what is the lifespan on a unit like this? How long are we going to have to basically plan to renew an item like this?
So the security services for this renew every year. Given that this is a upgrade unit from the existing firewall that the police department has, we would be able to procure a upgrade package. It would come with 2 years of services right out of the gate. Going forward, there would be the yearly renewal for support and those other protective services that device offers. But the actual lifespan of the device is probably 5 to 7 years.
Okay. And then I guess, yeah, with a 5 to 7 year lifespan, we probably don't have to worry about being outdated before the actual unit is no longer functioning.
No.
Okay.
The other thing that this should allow us to do, given that there was some additional funds and some other upgrades done to the individual facilities, as far as firewalls, when each facility had their own internet connection. We are trying to do a 10 gigabit internet interconnect between all of the city facilities.
Perfect.
Thank you,
That was
Bill.
the only question I had. Are there any other questions from our council? If not,
I move to approve the proposal from Ignitech to purchase and install a centralized router at the police department to serve city facilities with fiber for $10,578.20, funded through the American Rescue Plan Act Fund.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Shear.
Aye. That motion carries. That takes us on to agenda item 9B, the review and possible action relating to proposed design amendments for the Cdbg water main replacement project in 2022.
thank you. So the design for this project is going along quite well. Grab my glass. We're currently at about a 90% level of design. Our intent is to get the bid documents out in January for this project, with the construction to begin as soon as we can, weather permitting. So we're saying April 1st, but if the sun's shining and it's 60 degrees in March, we'll be starting. As the design has progressed and we've had a chance to look at all of the roads and kind of move through various elements that we knew we kind of had to make some decisions on, there's been a number of amendments. And the amendments, typically if they're small amendments, a couple $1,000s, we just approve those internally. But when they either cumulatively rise to a level or individually rise to a level, I bring them before council to make you aware of those amendments to the contract. And that's why we've brought that here today. There's three that I'd like to brief you on and ask your approval to move forward on. The first is a sidewalk design addition. When we put this out to bid, we did not include sidewalk in the design. We had internally wanted to make sure that we put sidewalk in this section. Much of this neighborhood extended does not have sidewalk. It's just simply one of those neighborhoods that we did not put in sidewalk at that particular time. As we talked about our finances and the potential to borrow for a portion of this project, we made the internal decision that it made sense to move forward with a design for sidewalk. I asked the consultant to provide us a cost for that to add it to the project. They gave me two options. One was the very detailed level of survey for sidewalk design with a lot of standard language and plan sheets and things like that. Call it a DOT level of design, perhaps. The other was a typical section, meaning here's your sidewalk 4 feet wide and 6 inches or 4 inches thick. And it goes here in the right of way, and contractor, please install it, which is a little more streamlined and frankly, much more efficient for us and still results in the same sort of product. That's what you're seeing here for the $12,000 addition. Much of that cost is related to staking the right of way and surveying the right of way. So when the city comes in and does work individually, I often knock on the door and say, hey, we're going to do some work in this area. I know the property boundary is nearby, but we'll have to walk around on your private property and things like that to install it. And it's a bit of a handshake agreement and things move along quite well that way. In this situation where we're putting in a permanent piece of infrastructure, we want to make sure that we're not putting it on somebody's private property. So staking that right of way and making sure we know where all of those corners are is important here. So that's what the majority of that $12,000 expense is. The second amendment was for the addition of the Adrian Street design. So it's a very short section on Adrian Street that frankly I should have included originally. When we put forward the CDBG grant application, I had a number that we needed to hit for linear feet of water main that would be replaced. So if you recall, we're doing about a $2 million, $2.8 million total project here with the road infrastructure, the water infrastructure, as well as now we've got some sidewalk improvements and some minor sanitary improvements. We qualified for about $350,000 of grant funding for that, which is a lot of money for the water main portion. So we had to do $2.8 million worth of work to get $350,000 worth of work. So I was cognizant about making sure that we weren't extending the water main any further than we needed to. That led to probably what was a bit of an oversight on that short section of Adrian. So it's not a lot of money for them to add that into the design on their side of things. Again, it's a fairly small amount at $4,000. The last one is related to Peterson Street. So when we've gone through and looked at all of these roads, the question has become, how much money do we put into the road? And I do not like to pay a lot of money for roads that I know are in terrible shape. The best way to fix all of these things is to completely remove them and rebuild them, putting in likely several feet of gravel because we're in poor soils. That road will last, 30 to 40 years and can be maintained. That would cost us a fortune. So what we've done on the majority of these is taken the approach to try to reinforce the base, or that is the portion of the road that is built on the existing soil, using some geogrid, which is it's basically a plastic matrix that spreads the load out. It is a much more cost-effective approach to stabilizing the base. Most of this area was wetlands as recently as 75 years ago or so. So the soils aren't the best. I think we can get by with putting in that geotextile material to reinforce the base to a point where I think the asphalt will last us at least 30 years. And as long as we keep up with the maintenance, we're getting a good product there. Peterson Street is the exception. Peterson Street is a bit too far gone for me to feel good about making that decision. So I talked to the consultant that we have. I said, I think we should really rebuild Peterson Street. It's in terrible shape and the soils under there just appear to be, we must have just by luck hit the worst vein of soils in that particular area of not so good soils, frankly. So the cost to reconstruct Peterson Street as opposed to rehabbing it, doing a mill and overlay or pulverize and overlay, is what you see here for that $16,000. The reason for this cost, number one is surveying again. A portion of that is included with the sidewalks. But the other portion of this is the survey is going to inform specific plan sheets. So we're going to get cross sections. Without going into the weeds too much, when you're rehabbing something that already has the curb and gutter right there, you kind of have your boundaries set. You don't have to worry about where the road is going to go, or where the things are going to be placed. All of that is already in the field. In this situation, we're going to remove all of those landmarks, if you will. So the curb and gutter is going away, the road's going away, and we're going to rebuild it. So you have to have a higher level of design for that in order to make sure that we're hitting the grades that we want and the area that we want in terms of the horizontal alignment. So it's a little bit of a larger effort. They did include a caveat in their initial contract with us, their scope, that said, we are assuming rehabilitation of these roads, not reconstruction. And that was something they put in there specifically, which I encouraged them to do because at the time we had anticipated that. So those are the three amendments that we have together on this. The total, the initial contract was $56,000, again, in rough numbers. These additions would bring the design contract up to $89,000. My current budget projections for the entire project, not just the water main, is about $2.8 million. So you look at ratios with design and you think about, about 10% or so of the design or 10% of the total construction cost being for design as well as construction oversight. And we're still trending in that vein. So I don't feel like we're at risk of them coming in when we've already given them a contract and sort of putting a bunch of additional costs and fees in front of us. So I feel good about that. But more importantly, I want to make sure that council understands and is comfortable with this, not only the decisions, but moving ahead with these amendments. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you have with all of that information I just tossed on you there.
Andy, I guess that's what I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So you are just looking for approval for these three additions
Correct.
specifically. Okay.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to confirm too, you do note the Fund 5 Transportation Fund, it says would pay for these design fees in the short term. Then you
Correct.
talk about borrowing for longer term. But in the short term, that fund would fully cover this, what, $33,000-ish difference.
Yeah,
So
I
that
did.
would be fully covered based on what's already
Yeah.
available.
I spoke with Manager Lemire about that, and that kind of gets into the cash flow
Yeah.
side of things. And we have a very healthy fund balance to be able to manage that cash flow. So we're not in any there's no concern about that running
Okay.
out of money essentially.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that on the borrowing, that there wouldn't be borrowing for this difference.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We may change the, I want to make sure that everybody's aware, we're still working with estimates on the construction at 2.8 million. When the bids come back, when we get these in, what we're shooting for, I think mid-February, late February, some time frame there, we'll have the exact numbers. So when we look at the borrowing side of this, should the bids come back way high or way low, we could have some adjustments in the borrowing. And I know that's a sensitive time frame in there with getting the borrowing in place with resolutions on the council side of things and whatnot. So just to prepare you, we've seen some real weird fluctuations. Actually, on the downside, we had some of the best bids last summer on construction and asphalt that I've seen since I've been here. I don't know if that will continue in this situation. Pipe has been one of those things that's been hard to get, plastic pipe, and we have a lot of it on this project, so we could see some escalation there. So I just want to make sure that council's aware of that as we continue to talk about this project. Any other questions?
Just always seems like when we do these types of projects in these older neighborhoods, and especially a low-lying area like we had with Rockwell Avenue, we're gonna encounter some additional challenges. So
Yeah.
I appreciate things are always going to be a little bit in flux with a situation like this. Just out of curiosity, do you have any like general feeling of how many bids you might end up getting on this? I know that's been kind of hit or miss lately.
We've done pretty well. Now asphalt work, we're down to 2 companies. So we had 3, we had Wolf Paving, Rock Road, and Payne and Dolan that were consistently bidding asphalt work here in the city. Rock Road bought Wolf Paving. So we get 2 bids for the asphalt. Now, I don't think that asphalt contractors will be the prime contractor here. I think the pipe laying crew will. In those situations, we have had, I think, at least 3 bids for just about everything. So we did the big project on kind of Roosevelt area up on the hill near Zafke Hill. And I believe we had 3 bids for that, if not 2 for sure. I know we had 2 for sure. And then Rockwell, I think we ended up with, I thought we had 3 for that too, but you know what? We may have only had 2 for that. Was it Madrell and James Peterson, I think, that ended up doing some of that too, right? So yeah, 2, I guess 2 bids. We want 3. And then as far as the bidding climate, the only thing I can tell you about that going into this 2022 construction year, when we bid out the Grove Street work, the contractor for that, we only got 1 bid for that. And the contractor said that the reason for that was that he was one of the only ones that had finished up early, and that there were a lot of people looking for pipe work, and that was in October. So I don't have a lot of answers for you, mostly just hearsay in that situation. We always want 3 bids. And this is a big project, so hopefully we'll get a lot of interest, and we're getting it out very early in the year, both of which work in our favor. But I can't speak to the bidding environment much more than that.
Fingers crossed, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, if nobody else has questions, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the proposed design amendments for the CDBG water main and road construction project in 2022 with Rupert Milky for the additional cost of $29,077.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I believe this is a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye. That motion
you.
carries.
Thanks, Amy.
That takes us on to agenda item 10, new business. 10A, the review and possible action relating to the request to approve Accurate Diving Board Solutions LLC quote to purchase 2 new diving boards at a cost of $9,296.
Yes, thank you. I'd first like to thank you for the opportunity to present this item virtually, as I'm currently on maternity leave. She just got her 2-month shots today, so I apologize if there's crying in the background. We have a small house, so it's not a good spot to hide here. Our Aquatic Center has a diving well with 2 diving boards. The diving boards consist of the board and the stand, which are 2 completely separate parts. The diving boards have a life expectancy of 10 to 15 years and have been replaced 3 times within the 30 years of being open. The first time the boards were replaced, it was due to the amount of grit lost on the boards early on in their lifespan. For the second set of boards, the manufacturer advised us to store them inside over the winter, which extended the life of those boards. We purchased our current set in 2009, and they have lasted us 12 years. It's recommended to resurface the boards every 5 to 10 years when they start to lose their tackiness and become slippery, causing a safety hazard. Our aquatic specialist maintains the boards daily by hosing them down and scrubbing them monthly per the maintenance recommendation. The estimated cost of resurfacing the 2 diving boards included in the 2021 CIP is $8,500. The estimated cost of replacing the 2 diving boards included in the 2023 to 2027 CIP planned for 2025 is $13,000. The estimated difference between the 2 costs is $4,500. The boards can be resurfaced 1 to 2 times before replacing them, which saves the city money. The current boards were last resurfaced around 2014. They were showing signs of losing their grit and becoming slippery, so we plan to get them resurfaced this year to be ready for next year's pool season and last at least 4 more years. That was the plan. Due to the amount of liability, only the manufacturer Duraflex will resurface these boards. If Duraflex finds one crack in the boards, they scrap them and the facility needs to purchase new boards. So we had staff inspected the boards prior to shipping to Duraflex in Nevada, and also took pictures of them to have proof if they cracked during shipping. However, underlying cracks were found by Duraflex that were not evident through the staff inspection. So Duraflex indicated that they would not resurface these boards due to the safety and liability concerns. So as such, we are recommending to replace both boards prior to 2022 pool season. Duraflex diving boards are used at commercial pool facilities and also provide a 1-year warranty. Another well-respected diving board manufacturer is SR Smith. However, their boards do not fit the stands at the Aquatic Center. The estimated cost to resurface 2 diving boards, including shipping to Nevada, was $7,400. We had $8,500 budgeted in the 2021 Aquatic Center CIP for resurfacing. Since those boards were only shipped and not resurfaced, the city will pay $2,500 for shipping, but now we are out of diving boards. In order to have diving boards for the 2022 season, we saw proposals for 2 new Duraflex diving boards. Proposals were received from Accurate Diving Board Solutions out of Florida, Reconstruct out of Kentucky, and then Caracal Aquatics out of Wisconsin. Caracal Aquatics is the city's local pool supplier for chemicals, but due to the significantly higher total cost, we recommend that the council approve the purchase through Accurate Diving Board Solutions. And Accurate Diving Board Solutions is a diving board dealer through Duraflex, certified and was recommended by multiple facilities. So we propose to fund the $9,296 purchase through our outlay Aquatic Center budget and the Aquatic Center supplies/maintenance budget as shown in the memo. So with all of that information, does anyone have any questions?
Brooke, I'm just curious, and maybe it's just because they have a more extensive process, but the whole thing just seems a little strange to have inspected them, pay $2,500 to ship them, to then be told they're in a different condition than we believe they were, and then be out that $2,500 and then also not have diving boards anymore.
Yes, there was a contract per se that we had to sign due to that process, and there was a 5-page process that it showed us what pictures to take and the side of each diving board to make sure that there were no cracks, but they had sent photos. Duraflex had sent photos of finding those cracks, and in those photos it looks like they kind of scraped off the outer, which caused the underlying cracks to come through that we did not see as staff when we inspected.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from our council?
I don't have any other questions. This seems pretty straightforward. I'll make the motion to approve the proposal from Accurate Diving Board Solutions LLC to purchase 2 new diving boards at a cost of $9,296.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any last conversation? This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 10B, the review and possible action relating to the proposal from Ignitech for $4,730 for the services and software to migrate the city's website and email to fortatkinsonwisconsin.gov.
Thank you. So throughout the last year or so, several members of the city's management team have been encouraged by state and local, or I should say state and federal partners to move to a .gov domain name. This .gov domain is easily recognizable by members of the public and other website visitors and email recipients as correspondence from an official government entity. Also through this project, the police department will change its domain from fortpd.com to fortatkinsonwi.gov, which will be consistent with the rest of city staff. I will note that the library and the museum will maintain their current domains, which are fortlibrary.org and hordemuseum.org. The .org domain is a respected domain address as well. It's not, I think you have to apply for those as well. So it's, yeah, we're not concerned by those remaining as .orgs. So the city is also in the process of updating our website. And we will purchase, I think it is free, actually. It's free to get the .gov domain name. But we will have to make some efforts to purchase that. And then we intend to roll out all of the changes to the website, along with the changes to the domain name for our email addresses. It was in the first quarter of 2022, but I feel in our recent conversations with our communications consultants, I feel it is very important to keep a consistent domain name through the referendum process, because there will be flyers and mailers and certain things that will be mailed out that we don't want to change things midstream. So we will look at after the April election to make these changes, and we will have some more time, and maybe we will get our phones updated by then as well. So there are a couple costs associated with this. There is a $680 ongoing cost, annual cost to support this Microsoft Exchange mailbox. And then there is a $4,770 one-time cost for the labor and services associated with the transition of the email. So we did not budget for funds for this project in 21 or 22. But we do have ARPA funds that could be used for the one-time portion of the project under the supporting public health response category for increased security and supporting remote work. The annual recurring cost of $680, we are proposing to split between the general fund water and wastewater utilities per the table in the memo. That's $226.67 for each of those three accounts included, because this will support the utilities in addition to the general fund. So staff does recommend that the city council accept the proposal for Ignitech for $5,450 for the labor, services, and software necessary to migrate the city's website and email to the fortatkinsonwi.gov domain. And just again, noting that of that $5,450, $4,770 is a one-time cost, and the $680 will be an ongoing annual cost. In addition to the recognizable domain, it's also a lot more secure. It is recommended by the Wisconsin Election Commission and other state programs, state partners that we work with to have that .gov. I do think it is a positive step for the city, and I would be happy to answer questions that I can answer. And we have Bill from Ignitech on the line too.
I just wanted to add, I forgot to mention this earlier, the $680 annual cost. We currently have an annual cost for hosting the email, so it's just a small increase. So it's not a new expense. It's just a minor increase.
I mean, I think it's a great time to do it with funds available that are designated for activities like this. I think it will certainly be nice to pull up our council agendas and not have it say not secure on the site. So I think from, just an overall security standpoint, from sharing of city information, I just, again, I think it's a great move and certainly a perfect time to do it with having funding available that we don't have to pull from something else. So.
And I didn't mention a communications plan, but obviously we will communicate this as fully as possible when that transition occurs. And Ignitech will also support our current domain for as long as we ask them to, a year or 2 years, and we will make sure everything is forwarded in the appropriate way, and that the old web address directs to the new web address, and those various items to make sure we don't lose anybody in the transition.
That was one thing I was gonna ask about, if there would be any kind of redirect, at least for a while, from the old website. Sometimes people don't update their bookmarks and things like that for a while, so.
Yep, a lot of that will be done. Email will be backed up and secured, so kind of a soft rebranding, not changing logo or anything, but website, and depending on how our phone project moves forward, it'd be good planning, the letterhead, the envelopes, whatever we need to update, business cards.
What is the anticipated downtime during the transition?
I don't perceive too much downtime as a process. We would create the account with Microsoft for the hosted services, and we would be able to take ownership of both the .gov as well as your current domains. Show that those are yours. We can add them to the tenant, and then using the migration tools that we have, it might be certain individuals are down for a couple hour or two during the transition of having their mailbox go from your on-premise mail servers to into the cloud.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from our council?
I move to approve the proposal from Ignitech for $5,450 for the labor, services, and software to migrate the city's website and email to fortatkinson.gov.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye, that motion carries. That takes us to agenda item 10C, the review and possible action relating to the purchase of a replacement hot water heater at the police department from Dunkelberger Plumbing for $12,000.
Hello, everyone. Not really an exciting topic to discuss, and not a planned topic either. Over the last few years, we've been trying to increase the budget amount for the building repairs, because we know we have aging infrastructure and mechanicals inside the building. And obviously this one, just at the end of the year, was a surprise when I came into work and found the hot water heater out at the police department. The building, when it was built in 2001, came with 2 commercial size hot water heaters. Prior to me coming to this agency just over 7 years ago, one of those hot water heaters was already offline, not operational anymore. And for about, I think, 9 to 10 years, the department has just been running on one of the units. And that unit decided to crash out on us at the beginning of last week. So that's why we're here today, presenting to you the repair and replacement of it. It has already occurred, which is obviously not the way that we want to do things normally. However, this situation, and with the type of unit that it is, and to prevent any damage to anything else in the mechanical room or in the building, felt it was an emergency repair. Immediately made contact with the city manager, brought her up to speed on what the situation was, and then we moved forward and made that repair. I'm able to answer any questions about that repair and the cost associated with it.
I will note that as you can tell by some of the agenda items tonight, we are getting to the end of 2021. So we are going over budget on a couple of these things, but these are things that are over budget on specific accounts, but we do not anticipate being over budget on these departments. We do feel that accounting for these things appropriately is important. So we would not, for example, put diving board money into a salaries account because we have extra money there. You know, we don't account like that. Our auditors don't like that. We don't like that either because it's not accurate as to what we spent our money on. So this is one of those things that we will be over budget in this specific account. However, we anticipate the police department not being over budget overall, and the general fund will definitely not be over budget overall. Wanted to add that.
We originally had 2 hot water heaters. We've been functioning on 1. Is this a single replacement to cover both?
I just replaced the one that went out and I left the one that was already down for the last 10 years alone and did not touch it. We have been operating for a considerable amount of time with no issues with that single hot water heater. And it is, and you know, I don't know what the reason was for installing the 2 when they built the building. But I've been here for just over 7 years and it hasn't been an issue. So right now my only concern is having hot water and just replacing that one. And those units were original to the building, so they are 21 years old. And if anybody knows hot water heaters, that's a pretty good life for a hot water heater.
So we don't anticipate replacing the other one in the future?
I hope not. I'd rather not. If I had advice from a professional that says you really should do it, I think we'd be in a situation where we could plan for it and budget for it. But I'm not being told that now, that we should have it or need to have it.
Well, like you said, not a fun expense, but I mean, thankfully, we also have services in town who could fix those for you quickly. So obviously not wanting Dunkelberger to not be getting paid here. I would move to approve the purchase of a replacement hot water heater at the police department from Dunkelberger Plumbing for $12,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other conversation? This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye, that motion carries.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Chief.
It takes us to agenda item number 11, miscellaneous. This evening we have none. Agenda item 12, claims appropriations and contract payments. 12A, the review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
Move to approve the list of verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorize payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye, that motion carries. And with that, we hit adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just want to wish everyone a happy holidays and a safe new year.
You too,
All of
Chris.
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep, take care.
Very much.
Oh my gosh, you're very welcome. Thank you. You helped me. That's-